Name's Jack Delaney. I haul independent mostly. Dry freight, appliances, scraps sometimes if the money's there. Been doing runs out of Amarillo doing west or south. Depends who's calling. I don't got a boss breathing down my neck, but that just means when something goes sideways, it's on me. Always been that way. Folks think you get used to the road. You don't. You just stop being surprised when it kicks you in the teeth. This one run was supposed to be simple. Midweek, early April, clear skies, weather sitting low 80s. Dispatch out of Albuquerque called in a late job. Parts headed for a warehouse near Las Cruces. Light load, clean pay, and I figured I'd knock it out, grab a motel off I-10, and be back north by Friday. I topped off the Kenworth, old but tight, checked fluids, tires, lights. Everything showed green. I run my own maintenance, so I know the rig like I know my own hands. No reason to think this run would be any different than 100 before it. I hit I-25 out of ABQ just before lunch. Traffic was light, crews locked. Had a brisket sandwich riding shotgun, and some bad talk radio filling the dead air. Past Socorro, things started stretching out. You know that part of New Mexico. It's not empty, but it feels like it wants to be. Long, dry plains, low hills off in the haze. You drive long enough in that landscape, your brain slows down to match it. I'd hit maybe 2 hours solid before I caught it. Real faint. Just a whiff. Sweet. Chemical sweet. Like antifreeze, but light enough I almost missed it. You spend time with trucks, you'll learn to pay attention to smells. I cracked the window thinking maybe it was some roadside spill or some joker with a bad head gasket miles ahead. The gauges were all right where they should be. Temp was steady, no spikes, no idiot lights. Pulled off at the next rest stop, stretched my legs, took a look underneath. No leaks, not a drop, clean as Sunday. Topped off a coffee at the vending shack and figured I was chasing ghosts. Got back on the road. But the smell stuck in my nose. Rolled into Truth or Consequences for fuel. Small town, truck stops not big, but they got diesel, bathrooms, and the kind of burritos that'll keep your stomach guessing. I pulled in, grabbed pump 6. About halfway through fill-up, I saw this guy in a dusty blue Tacoma. Older, maybe late 50s, brown cap, sunglasses, too clean for his beat-up ride. He was parked on the other side, just watching. Not like a threat, more like a guy with time to kill. He walked over slow, not close, just far enough to lean on the trash can near my rig's nose. "You been running south long?" he asked, not real friendly, not rude either. I shrugged, off and on. He nodded like he already knew that. "Smell that?" I paused. "Coolant?" He grinned, dry and wide. "They tag trucks with that. Means you've been marked. Some folks out here, they play games with the overheats, especially with rigs that don't belong."
Now, that's the kind of thing you hear sometimes. Old trucker gossip, lot legends. I didn't buy into that back when I started, and I didn't now. Still, the guy wasn't smiling anymore. He just tapped his temple and said, "Just keep your eyes open. Ain't all breakdowns are natural." He climbed back in his Tacoma and pulled off like nothing happened. Left me standing there with a half-full tank and that smell floating up like a ghost from under the hood. I opened the engine bay. Everything looked fine. Hoses firm, radiator cap tight, fluid at level. No steam, no drips. Got back in the cab, let her idle a minute. No warning lights, no reason not to keep rolling. But I sat there anyway, watching the traffic trickle past, wondering if I'd missed something. I've been driving long enough to know machines don't talk in words. They speak in sounds, pressure, resistance, smell. You can't ignore when something feels off. Doesn't matter if the computer says all good. Your gut knows before the gauges do. That's how I've stayed clean all these years. No wrecks, no busted hauls, no fights with roadside mechanics trying to screw me blind. But this was different. It wasn't the truck talking. It was people. Someone, somewhere, wanted me to sweat. Or worse. Now, maybe the guy was full of it. Maybe he got too much sun and not enough water. But he wasn't laughing when he said it. He said tagged, like it meant something. Like I was part of a list I didn't ask to be on. Thing is, once you hear something like that, it doesn't go away. It sits in the back of your brain, chewing on the wires. Every smell, every rattle, every bump starts feeling personal. I pulled back onto the interstate, eyes on the mirrors more than usual. Kept waiting for something to go wrong. The desert ain't forgiving, and I knew damn well if this truck went down in the wrong stretch, I'd be out there baking with no one coming for hours. Ever caught a smell that told you something was wrong, even if the gauges said everything was fine? Drop it in the comments. I rolled out of Truth or Consequences just before dusk. Sun was getting low, throwing long shadows across the road, making the desert look even emptier than usual. I kept the windows half cracked, hoping the breeze might kill that faint sweet smell still ghosting around a cab. It didn't. Maybe I was imagining it at this point, but every time I breathed in, I caught that edge of syrupy chemical. I told myself the guy at the fuel stop was just trying to get in my head. Probably bored, maybe crazy. But I didn't like the way he said tagged, like it wasn't random, like it meant someone picked me out. The run to Las Cruces wasn't long. I figured a couple more hours, maybe less if the road stayed clear. But I kept one eye on the gauges, other on the mirrors. Wasn't much traffic at that hour. Few RVs headed north, maybe a rig or two in the distance, but otherwise it was just me, the hum of the engine, and the big, open dark rolling in. Somewhere past Hatch, I noticed a black SUV sitting on the shoulder. No flashers, no hazards, just parked. Looked empty, but I couldn't see past the tinted glass. I let it go. Figured maybe someone pulled over to rest, but 10 minutes later, in the mirror, I saw headlights creeping up behind me. Same SUV, keeping a steady distance. Not tailgating, not passing, just there. Now, I've had plenty of folks follow me before. It happens. Highways only got one lane each way for stretches down here, and some drivers don't want to pass a semi doing the limit. But this one felt different. They stayed in the lane like they were pacing me. When I sped up a little, they sped up. When I dropped down 10, they dropped 2. It was full dark by then. That weird twilight had drained out, and the desert turned pitch. No lights out there, no houses, no signs, just cactus and silence. I flicked my trailer lights off and on. That's an old trucker's trick, like asking, "You got something to say?" Nothing, no reaction. They just kept cruising behind me, same distance, same speed. The coolant smell was stronger now. Not overpowering, not like something was gushing, but enough to make me start wondering if maybe something was off. I flipped the dash light lower, stared at the temp gauge. Needle hadn't moved, still solid. But that's the thing, they don't always move right away. I started running through possibilities in my head. Cracked reservoir, pinhole in a hose, bad cap, slow boil somewhere in the block. But none of it matched what I was seeing. Just that smell and the SUV. I pulled off at a wide shoulder near a mile marker that didn't matter. Killed the engine. SUV slowed down like they were going to stop too, but they didn't. Rolled by easy, real slow. I got a glimpse as they passed. Driver's window down an inch, face lit just enough by the dash. Male, dark ball cap, maybe 30s. Didn't look over, didn't even glance, like I wasn't there. Just eased past and disappeared into the black ahead. I sat there for a minute, engine ticking in the heat. Stepped out, popped the hood. Nothing steaming, nothing hissing. I ran a flashlight around the bay, checked the radiator, the cap, the hoses I could reach. All looked normal. No leaks, no drips. But right under the front, Near where the air dam was bolted in, I saw a puddle. Not big, about the size of a coffee lid. Shiny. And when I bent down, the smell hit me hard. Definitely coolant. But here's the kicker. Reservoir was still full. That's not how it works. You get a puddle like that, your tank should be lower. Something should be bleeding out. But I ran a rag over every inch I could reach. Nothing wet, only that one little patch underneath, like someone placed it there, like a warning. I backed off, wiped my hands, got in the cab and fired her back up. Engine purred, temp gauge still holding, but my stomach had dropped into my boots. I've had breakdowns. I've lost belts, fried batteries, snapped airlines,
But I never had my truck act like it was bleeding when it wasn't. I rolled back onto the highway, keeping it under 60, eyes flipping between the gauges in the side mirrors. No SUV in sight, but my heart wouldn't slow down. There's a feeling you get sometimes out there, like you're not alone, even when the road is. Not like ghosts, not like monsters. Real people, watching, waiting, testing how close they can get to your skin before you notice. By the time I hit the next rest stop, I was running on nerves. Parked under one of the few working lights, let the engine idle while I checked under the hood again. Still nothing. Coolant level fine, no fresh puddle, but that same chemical scent hovered in the air like a whisper. I locked the cab, walked into the small building, just vending machines, a bathroom, and one beat-up bulletin board with faded flyers. Sat on the bench, drank a warm bottle of water, and tried to figure if I was being paranoid or if someone was actually trying to screw with me. Could have been a prank. Could have been some local gang marking outsiders. Could have been competition. Only thing I knew for sure, this wasn't normal. This wasn't just the desert being hard on engines. Something was off, and I was in it now, whether I wanted to be or not. I stayed at that rest stop longer than I should have. Just sat there, pretending to relax, watching the highway through dirty glass. Nothing fancy about the place. Concrete floors, buzzing soda machines, a bathroom that smelled like bleach lost the fight. But at least it was lighted and had walls. After a while, another truck pulled in. A flatbed, old Peterbilt with faded blue paint and a ripped side flap. Driver looked like he'd seen better decades. Gray ponytail, big mustache, eyes like gravel. He stepped out stiff, stretched his back, and gave me a nod. I nodded back. There's a kind of unspoken agreement when you see another solo driver at a late stop like that. You're both running hard, both off the grid for the night. I asked if he wanted coffee. He grunted and said, "If it's hot." We ended up standing outside near the vending machine trash can, sipping paper cups of what I wouldn't call coffee if anyone else was listening. He lit a cigarette, cupped the flame like the desert wind might steal it. "You run through Lordsburg?" he asked. "Not yet." "Don't. That where trouble is?"
Something like it. He flicked his ash. "You ain't local, are you?" "No." That's what they look for. Rigs with no plates they recognize. Folks not tied in. Tied into what? He didn't answer right away, just looked at me for a while like he was measuring something. Then said, "Some boys out here run their own system. Little turf game. They think certain routes belong to 'em. You cut through, even if legal. They tag your rig. Mark it. Spook you out. Or worse." I felt the back of my neck stiffen. How they tag it? Coolant's one way. They'll splash a little under you while you fuel or pour near your tires when you're parked. Makes you think you're leaking. You slow down, stop, maybe even call for help. That's when it gets easy for 'em. For what? He shrugged again. Not always the same. Sometimes they rob you. Sometimes they just want you to never come back. Send a message. I looked out at my truck. It sat quiet, like it was sleeping but ready to wake up angry. You seen it happen? I seen a guy lose a transmission chasing a phantom leak. Another guy got his trailer broken into while he was under it with a flashlight. You'd tell the cops? Out here, county sheriff don't get involved unless there's blood, and these boys are smart. Don't cut lines, don't break things. They let you break it, chasing shadows. He finished the cigarette, flicked the butt onto the concrete, and stepped on it. Keep driving. Don't stop for nobody. Don't talk to anyone who don't give their name first. And if you see a black SUV again, change lanes. That hit hard. I hadn't told him about the SUV. You see it? I asked. He nodded. More than once. They follow from a distance, never pull up close, like shepherd dogs. Make sure you stay in the lane they want. I didn't sleep that night. Just laid in the sleeper with the curtain half open, watching shadows move across the asphalt. Every semi that came or went, I tracked it by sound. I started hearing things, compressor clicks that didn't belong, tires crunching gravel too slow, footsteps that probably weren't footsteps. At first light, I got out and checked the truck again. Nothing new. No fresh puddles. But the smell was still faint in the air, like it had soaked into the paint. I pulled out of the rest stop without breakfast. I had half a mind to turn around, call the drop and tell them I'd reschedule, but something in me didn't want to back down either. Maybe pride, maybe just plain old stubbornness. But I kept heading south. The desert in the morning feels honest, empty, hot already, but honest. Sun climbs fast out there, paints everything in that hard yellow that shows every crack and scrape. And still, I watched the mirrors more than the road. About 20 miles from Las Cruces, I passed a way station that was shut for maintenance. That's when I saw the SUV again, parked off an unmarked side road, just tucked behind some scrub. Same color, same outline. Too far to get a plate, but it was the kind of thing you remember. I stayed on the throttle, didn't look back. Thing is, there's always something out there. Weather, mechanical failure, road idiots. You plan for that. You prep. You carry tools, water, cables, coolant, all of it. But you don't plan for people trying to psych you out. That's a whole different ballgame. That's not truck driving anymore. That's something else. And once you realize someone might have picked you, your whole mindset shifts. Every light turns suspicious. Every sound could be the start of something. You lose your rhythm. And once you lose rhythm on the road, bad things happen. Doesn't even take sabotage, just doubt. Doubt'll cook an engine faster than summer heat if you let it. I rolled through the east end of Las Cruces on fumes, both diesel and patience. Didn't stop in town, just skirted the edges, hugging the frontage road till I found a spot near a closed-up tire shop with a gravel lot big enough to park the rig. Sun was dropping fast, that orange New Mexico burn hitting the back of my neck. I killed the engine, opened the door, and just sat there on the step for a minute. Boots in the dirt, brain still chewing on everything. The smell hadn't gone away. That sweet, wrong coolant smell. It started to feel like part of the damn truck, like it had soaked into the seats. I didn't trust the gauges anymore. They said everything was fine, but I'd spent the last 100 miles watching the temp needle like it was a damn lie detector. Sometimes it twitched a little high, then dropped again. Could have been a sensor glitch. Could have been nothing. Could have been exactly what they wanted me to think. I walked around the rig slow, flashlight in hand, even though there was still enough daylight. I wasn't looking for leaks anymore. I was looking for hands, tampering, any sign someone had touched the truck besides me. Near the front, just under the lower radiator hose, I caught it, barely visible against the grime. A cut. Not big, maybe 2 inches. Clean slice, like from a blade. Not torn, not aged, just there. I pressed my thumb around it. Hose felt tight, no give. No drip either. but it didn't have to be dripping now. A cut like that could open up under pressure, only when the coolant's cooking. That meant it was planned, measured, timed. Someone had gotten under my truck, and they'd done it in a way I wouldn't catch right away. Not until I was 20, 30, 50 miles out in the middle of nowhere. Not until the desert was in full swing and my only choice was to shut down or cook the engine dry. That was the plan. Burn me out without laying a hand on me. I didn't panic, just stood there with my hand on the grill thinking. Called up a guy I know out of El Paso, Ricky. Runs a small shop, ex-driver himself, knows trucks better than most dealership clowns. He picked up on the second ring. Yeah? It's Jack. I need a favor. Where you at? Las Cruces, just outside. You broke down?
Not yet. There was a pause. He got it. Coolant? Yeah. Okay, give me an hour. While I waited, I parked the rig behind the tire shop building, tucked it out of view from the main road. I didn't like the idea of leaving it in plain sight anymore. Felt like walking through a bad neighborhood with your wallet out. I went across the street to a diner. Classic chrome box, place I'd been to before. Food was average, but the coffee was hot, and they didn't ask questions if you sat quiet. I grabbed a booth in the back where I could see the lot. Waitress came by. Name tag said Marlene. Face said she'd been working that route longer than I'd been driving. Long day? She asked, pouring without waiting for an answer. Still going. She nodded. Road's been weird lately. How so? Cops came by last week asking about a rig that disappeared off 26. Nobody saw a thing, just gone. I didn't say anything. She left me the pot and walked off. Outside, a black SUV rolled past real slow. Not the same one. This one was newer, glossier. But it didn't belong on that side street, not unless you were lost or looking for something. I didn't move, just sat and watched it ease past, brake lights blinking once like a wink, and then gone. Ricky pulled up 40 minutes later in his rust-red Silverado, toolbox in the bed, and a smirk like he already knew what kind of mess I'd dragged him into. We didn't talk in the diner. I paid my check, walked out like we didn't know each other, and met him at the back of the tire shop. He climbed under the truck with a headlamp and a flathead. 5 minutes later, he slid out, rubbing dust off his jeans. "You got cut," he said, simple as that. "Clean?" "Too clean. Surgical, right where you wouldn't see it unless you were looking for it." He pulled a short length of hose from his box and some clamps. "We can patch it, won't hold forever, but long enough to get you somewhere better." He didn't ask how it happened. He already knew, same as I did. While he worked, I stood guard. Not officially, just watching. Shadows, reflections, every car that drove by. I'd gone from a hauler to a guy waiting for something to jump. That's not a good switch. That's how you make mistakes. He finished up, wiped his hands, handed me the old hose section. "Keep it. Might be useful." "Useful how?" He gave me a look. "Proof, if someone asks." I nodded, tossed it in the side compartment. "You good to roll?" "Yeah." "You want me to follow?" "No. If they're watching, they already seen too much." He didn't argue, just slapped the hood and backed out of the lot. I waited a full 5 minutes before climbing into the cab and firing it up. The engine ran smooth, temp gauge steady, no warning lights, but the smell was still there. Not strong, but present. And not just from the hose. It had become something else. A marker. A message. I pulled out slow, took the long way around the block, past the diner, past the tire shop, circled once through a side alley, just to see if anyone was watching. Didn't spot anything, but that didn't mean they weren't there. I hit the interstate with both windows cracked. Wind noise was better than the silence. My eyes stayed moving. Mirrors, gauges, road, repeat. Back in the cab, I kept thinking about how quiet sabotage is. No alarms, no crash, just a trickle. Just enough damage to set a timer. That's the part that eats at you, not the act. The waiting. You don't know when it'll go, just that it will. That's how they get you. I pulled into a dirt lot behind a closed muffler shop on the west end of Deming. Didn't want to risk a motel lot or a brightly lit truck plaza. Not tonight. The patch job Ricky did was holding. Temp stayed level the whole ride, but that didn't mean I was clear. It just meant the clock was still ticking. I shut the rig down and killed every light, climbed into the sleeper and sat there, engine clicking as it cooled. I didn't lay down. I stayed sitting, one boot on the floor, other knee bent, flashlight in hand, tire iron by the bunk. It wasn't fear exactly, more like something colder, like I knew I wasn't done yet. At midnight, I made the call. Dialed a guy I hadn't talked to in 6 years, Earl Two Jug Barnes. Used to run hot freight down through El Paso and Juarez before he got out and started flipping motorcycles. He owed me a favor from back when I bailed him out in San Angelo, and I figured now was as good a time as any to collect. "You alive?" he said when he picked up. "Barely." "What's the job?" "I need you to drive something that looks broken." There was a pause. "Yours?" "Yeah." Another pause. Then, "Where?" "I'll drop it outside town, back lot, old cannery off Copper. You just need to show up in a flatbed, act like you're towing scrap." "What's the hook?" "Someone's watching my truck. I want to give 'em a show." He laughed. "Now you're speaking my language." I got out, checked the patch one more time, still dry, pulled the wire on the coolant sensor, loosened the clamp just enough to let a little fluid weep through the hose, enough to make it look like failure without actually being one. Set a rag under it to catch a fresh splash, the kind of theater that makes amateurs curious. Then I waited. At 2:15 I saw them. Same SUV, same color, no plates up front. They rolled down the alley slow, tires silent on gravel, lights off. They didn't stop, didn't get out, just looked. I kept low behind a trash bin, heart thumping but breath steady. After a few minutes, they turned around at the far end and rolled back out. I texted Earl. "Now." By 2:40, I heard the diesel hum of his tow rig. Big red Ford with rust along the fenders. Winch in front, chain hanging lazy from the back. He swung into the lot without hesitation, like he owned the damn building. Backed up to the Kenworth like it was just another pickup job.
We didn't talk. He hooked the truck like a pro, fast, loud, a little sloppy on purpose. I watched from down the block, hidden behind an abandoned billboard, flashlight off, eyes locked on the shadows. As Earl drove the Kenworth out of the lot, I slipped into a borrowed old beater, a '99 Ranger with mismatched doors and no hubcaps, parked 2 streets over under a busted streetlight. Belonged to a guy Ricky knew. No GPS, no dash cam, no interest. I tailed from a distance. Earl Old West on Pine, then looped onto the bypass, heading nowhere special. I kept 2 cars back, no lights, no sound. And sure enough, just outside the industrial park, the SUV showed up again. They merged in behind him like it was choreographed. Not tailgating, just there, watching. We kept that dance going for 10 miles. Earl kept to back roads, industrial routes, places where a tow truck wouldn't look out of place. SUV held its distance, no lights, no flash, just presence. Then right past an old gravel pit, Earl pulled into a turnoff and stopped like something went wrong. Lights on, hood up. Classic stranded look. SUV slowed, paused across the street. No one got out. After a minute, they rolled forward, turned down a side road, and disappeared. I drove up to Earl and tapped the hood. He stepped out with a grin, wiping grease off his hands with a rag that used to be white. "You see that?" "Yeah. They're watching your truck, not you." "Exactly." We left the Kenworth parked in that turnout till sunrise. Earl slept in his cab. I sat in the dirt behind the Ranger, back against the bumper, tire iron still within reach. Next morning we met at a diner just off I-10. Not the kind of place that gets tourists. Inside, grease smell hung thicker than the coffee. A couple ranch hands were nursing huevos and hash. I ordered toast and eggs, didn't touch the eggs. Earl leaned in. "So what's your next move?" "I'm not sure. They after you or the truck? I think they want the route, the lanes. They want me to disappear without a fight. Engine cooks in the desert. Nobody questions it. Bad luck." Earl nodded slow, like he'd seen this play before. "And if you keep showing up, you're trouble. That's the idea." He looked around the diner, then back at me. "You want real advice? Go. Sell the truck. Change your number. Get off their radar. Because if they're this patient, they're not amateurs, and they're not going to stop just because you patched a hose." I didn't answer. Just sipped the coffee and watched an old woman scrape her toast with the back of a knife. He left before I did. I paid cash, no tip, and walked back out to the Kenworth. Still there, looking fine. But it wasn't fine. Not to me. It was dirty now. Not from the road, but from hands that didn't belong. From eyes that treated it like property that needed removing. I climbed up, fired her up, and let her idle. Temp stayed steady. No smell. Nothing wrong. Not visibly. But I knew better.
Somebody had crossed a line with me, and I'd crossed one back. Problem is, once you start doing that, there's no going back to clean runs and quiet nights. I dropped the load in Las Cruces around noon. No drama. Warehouse guy barely looked me in the eye. Signed the papers, didn't even offer a bottle of water. It was the kind of handoff that tells you something's in the air, even if nobody's saying it. I pulled out of there and parked a few blocks down behind a shuttered convenience store, out of sight. Ate half a gas station sandwich and tried to decide whether to push north or hole up another night. I was tired but wired, nerves still burning from the night before. I called the broker, Vic, out of Albuquerque. One of those guys with a Bluetooth stuck in his ear and a Range Rover who doesn't drive. He answered on the second ring, voice too casual. "You get it dropped?" "Yeah." "You running any issues?" "Define issues." He paused. "Anything I need to know about?" I let that sit a second. "You send me into a tagged route?" Another pause, longer. "What do you mean tagged?" "Coolant games, tailors, hose cuts, guys marking territory." He sighed like he'd been expecting this but hoping it wouldn't come from me. "Look, I didn't think they'd mess with independents. You're small, you fly under." "Not this time. I'll make some calls." "No, don't. Just answer me straight. Did you know?" He hesitated again. That was the answer. "They've been leaning on some lanes, mostly guys running east from Lordsburg. They want control. You're not the first. But I might be the last if I keep doing this. It's not that serious." "It is to me." He didn't respond to that. Just said, "I'll see if I can find you something northbound, safer lanes." I hung up before I could finish. Sat there with the engine off, windows down, letting the heat roll in like punishment. My shirt stuck to the seat. I didn't care. I kept thinking about what Earl said, about selling the truck, disappearing. But that's not a switch you just flip. This truck wasn't just metal. It was years. It was nights parked in dead-end lots, showers bought with quarters, meals eaten off the dash, every mile paid for with hours I'd never get back. I started rolling north. No load, just empty trailer echoing behind me. I figured I'd hit up a yard in Socorro and park for the night, maybe ask around, see if any other drivers had seen the same kind of games. Pulled into a little truck stop outside Hatch to grab fuel and stretch. Walked in, saw a guy I knew from a run out of Phoenix a couple of months back. Ralphie ran produce and smoked menthols like they were air. He was leaned on the counter talking to the cashier when he saw me. His face changed a little. Not surprised, just cautious. "Jack," he said. "Ralphie." He looked around. "You been down south?" "Just came out of Las Cruces." He lowered his voice. "You got tagged?" I nodded. He whistled through his teeth. "Man, you gotta be careful."
You know the guy hauling lumber out of Tucson last week? Marvin? Big guy? Wears those stupid cowboy boots? Yeah. They found his truck overheated outside Lordsburg. Hood open, engine cooked, no Marvin. He shows up 2 days later walking into Deming with a heat stroke and no phone. Said someone flagged him down, and when he stopped, they took his keys and vanished. Left him sitting in the sun. I stared at him. "And no one saying anything?" "No, no one wants to start a war over lanes. Brokers act like they didn't hear it. Cops shrug. Everyone knows it's happening. They just think it'll pass. It won't. Nope. Back in the truck, I found a flyer tucked under my wiper. Plain paper. Block letters. Desert overheat. Keep 'em out. No logo, no number. Just that. Bold and stupid and direct. Like a calling card from guys who think they own the asphalt. I drove slow for a while after that, half hoping someone would show their face. Nobody did. Just me and the heat and the hum of a truck that felt less and less like mine every mile. I kept checking the mirrors. No SUV, no shadows, just that flyer, folded on the dash, staring up at me like a dare. By the time I hit Socorro, I knew I couldn't keep running like this. You can fix hoses, you can patch coolant leaks, but you can't patch a reputation once it's marked. I walked into a diner next to the lot and tried to order coffee. The girl behind the counter looked at me funny. Not scared, just tired. You the guy with the red Kenworth? Yeah. Someone called about you. Said you might cause problems. My stomach dropped. Who? She shrugged. Didn't leave a name, just said if a guy came through asking too many questions about coolant or tailors, we should keep an eye out. I left the coffee sitting there. Back at the truck, I checked everything again, not because I thought something was wrong, but because I couldn't trust anything anymore. That's the part nobody tells you. The sabotage, the smell, the scare, that's just the start. The real damage is afterward. When you question every mile, every light on the dash, every sound you've heard 100 times before but now seems off. The truck wasn't failing, I was. And that's exactly what they wanted. I sold the Kenworth 3 weeks later. Didn't even haggle on the price. Guy from Oklahoma drove down with cash and a grin, looked under the hood like he knew what he was doing, but I could tell he didn't see the cut, didn't smell the trace of what had been done. I didn't tell him either. It wasn't my business anymore. I handed him the keys and walked away with a paper envelope that felt a hell of a lot lighter than all the miles that truck had given me. Truth is, I didn't want to drive it anymore. Every time I turned the key, it felt like I was flipping a coin. I'd stare at the temperature gauge like it was a countdown. Every little knock, every puff of warm air through the vents, it all came with doubt.
And when doubt gets in your bones, it don't matter how strong your truck is. You're already done. I moved out of Amarillo a few days later. Just loaded up my gear into a rental van and drove east. Didn't tell dispatch, didn't give notice, let the phone ring out when the broker tried calling. Changed the number the next day. Cut clean. Settled in Lubbock for a bit. Smaller town, quieter lanes. Started running short hops at a leased Freightliner. Company equipment this time. Nothing with my name on the title. Just clean, boring loads. Groceries, packaging. Once even a load of folding chairs for some church event outside Abilene. Stuff no one would waste time chasing. No more desert routes. I don't touch anything west of Fort Stockton now. I don't fuel up at unmarked stops. I don't sleep where there's no cameras. And I sure as hell don't stop for SUVs sitting quiet on the shoulder. Every once in a while, I still smell it. I'll be coming off a run outside Wichita Falls or down in Midland, and that faint, sweet coolant scent will hit my nose. Doesn't matter if the rig's clean, the gauge is good. I'll still pull over, pop the hood, crawl underneath like a man looking for ghosts. Had a new guy at a truck stop ask me once why I check my hoses every stop. Tired of blowing lines? He joked. I looked at him and said, "Nah, just tired of learning things the hard way." He laughed like he thought I was messing with him. I didn't laugh back. Thing is, you think being out here long enough makes you tough, makes you ready for anything. You tell yourself no rookie move's gonna trip you up. But it's not about being tough. It's about knowing when to walk away. When the road turns on you, you can't drive through it. You gotta change direction or let it break you. I used to think I could handle anything behind the wheel. Storms, wrecks, blown tires, crooked mechanics. But I wasn't ready for what they did to me out there. The ones who don't want to scare you with guns or fists. The ones who make you do it to yourself. They don't need to hurt you, just make you stop trusting your own machine. That's the real trick. That's what stuck. So now I keep it simple. I haul what they give me, I sleep with one boot still on, and I never ignore a smell. If something's wrong, I don't wait. I stop. I check. I walk away if I have to. People ask me if I miss running south. I tell them I don't miss the heat, or the silence, or that stretch between Lordsburg and Las Cruces where your phone dies and the sky feels too big. I don't miss looking in the mirror and wondering if a shadow's just a car or someone deciding it's your turn. I still got the piece of hose Ricky cut out. Kept it in a drawer at first, then taped it to the inside of my toolbox. It's stiff now, crusted at the edges, smells like dust and old rubber. But the cut's still there, 2 inches, clean, too clean. Every now and then I look at it before a haul, not because I'm scared, because I remember. They didn't break me, but they changed the route, and that's enough.